What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another tutorial. This one we're going to be talking about Checkpoint and Azure Labs using Terraform. So for those of you that don't know what Terraform is, essentially it's a utility that we can use that will help us build an Azure environment extremely quickly, as well as tear it down very quickly. So this obviously heavily utilizes a lot of automation, and you can especially use it to save yourself a lot of those very precious Azure dollars in your subscription, especially when you're working on testing different things out in the environment. All right, so without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, let's go ahead and we're going to be working with this GitHub repository. This one is github.com/chkp-wbelt/tf-labs. So this GitHub was created and is maintained by Wes Belt, so a big shout out to him. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So first things first, we're going to have to install a couple of tools. All right, so let's go ahead and get started by downloading Visual Studio Code, getting that installed, and then we'll go ahead and move on to installing Git. So essentially just open these up, download here, download here. Okay, grab whichever version you need. I'm going to be doing the system installer. While that's going, it only takes a little bit. We'll grab this one as well. Okay, go ahead and get those installers started. Okay, we won't launch this for right now. Go ahead and close these tabs. So right here, you're going to want to choose Use Visual Studio Code as Git's default editor. Really, this is up to you, but as far as the video is concerned, this is what we'll be using. And the rest you can leave default. Alrighty, so now that we got those first two steps out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the GitHub section here. So first things first is we're going to have to clone the GitHub repo into a working directory on our local file system. So to do this, let's go ahead and create a folder. Yeah, it's really up to you. I'm going to put mine in my user directory. Okay, just going to name this Terraform. And then you want to open an elevated command prompt as an administrator and cd to that directory. All right, so from inside here, what we want to do is run this command. And actually, let's go back and confirm. We should have a TF Labs. Yep, there we go. So we have TF Labs folder in there. And now what we want to do is we actually want to copy the example.code-workspace. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it in one folder up. You can put it anywhere, but just for ease of use, I'm going to put it here. And what we want to do is rename this. I'm going to put mine to be Chris. All right, after you rename it, you're going to want to open it with a text editor. And you want to make sure that this path here points to the TF Labs folder that we just created. And since it's essentially going to be in the directory that this file resides in, all I need to do is type in tf-labs and save it. All right, so at this point we can fire up Visual Studio Code. Okay. And let's go ahead and open up that workspace, the one that I renamed. All right, excellent. So let's open these folders up, make sure there's stuff in there. Perfect. All right, so now what we want to do to have the proper syntax being registered within Visual Studio Code, we'll go ahead and install the Terraform extension. So to do that, we go down here in the bottom left-hand corner, this gear icon that says Manage. We're going to go to Extensions. And we're going to type in Terraform. Okay, we go here, click on Install. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for this, I actually just remembered we actually have to install Terraform on our system. So, I just finished, but let's go ahead and do that before we forget. So we can just type in Terraform download on Google, and it should be this first result, the terraform.io. Okay, go ahead and download the applicable one for you. Okay. And you can actually just grab this and put it into C:, Windows. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is installed. And now what we can actually see is we have some red errors, and we can see here in the bottom left that we do have 24 errors. Okay. All right, so what we want to do now is we need to actually update and enable the Terraform extension. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do Control-Shift-P. So in Visual Studio Code, that essentially opens up the console where you can execute some commands. Okay, so what we're going to do is type in Terraform :install /update language server. You can just auto-complete it. Okay, let's go ahead and use version 00.10. Okay, we'll let that run. Okay, now that we did that step, we also have to do Control-Shift-P again. And instead of install/update, we actually just do Terraform :enable, and we just autocomplete this as well. Okay, we click allow here in the bottom right. I think I missed that on the last one, so if you did that on there, you might not have it pop up twice. But that should do it. So at this point, what we could do is actually just restart Visual Studio Code, and those errors should be gone. Okay, let's give it a second to load all the plugins and extensions. And there we go. So yeah, there's no errors. I believe everything seems to be loaded at this point. Yes. So that looks good. So now it has the proper syntax registration. All right, and so now we can actually go ahead and move on. So at this point, we can start working on our environment setup. So if we scroll up here a little bit, we kind of skipped it at first, but essentially we're going to need to go into our Azure portal and grab these different IDs so that we can hook, essentially it's going to hook it into the Terraform so that when you execute the commands, it'll, of course, actually execute within your personal Azure environment. Okay. So to go ahead and do that, what we're going to do is once we get all that stuff done, we also need to modify a couple of variables within main.tf in 3 separate areas. One's going to be in setup/storage, one in setup/environment, and one in setup/network. Okay. And we also have to modify a backend file, and then that's it. Should be able to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So actually, let's go move over to our Azure portal for right now. Okay, so of course you need to make sure that you have a subscription, and let's go ahead and make sure that we have the proper setting and access control. So you want to check the role assignments. Okay, you want to make sure that you're here. Okay, so we do have the user that you're logged into. Make sure it's at least a role of contributor. Okay, identity not found. This is left over from when I was testing something. I'll remove it. Okay. And what we actually need to do is we need to go to, just type in app and go to app registrations. Okay, so we're going to create an app that we can use to sync within Terraform. So there's no apps by default, of course. Go to new registration. You can type in whatever you like here. I'm going to type in Terraform lab. Click register. And here we go. So we have our application, also known as client ID, as well as our directory, also known as tenant ID, as well as our object ID. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we need here. So we need our subscription ID, tenant, client, and client secret as well, which we can grab. You can open up a notepad file and essentially put all these values in there if you'd like. I'm just gonna actually open this up with Notepad++. So we're gonna have these three different sections, so Windows, OS X, and Linux. Essentially, you just have to copy and paste all the values into all three so that you have cross-platform compatibility. But if you're just going to stay on a single platform, which I will in my case, you can just fill out your corresponding version. So I'm just going to be doing Windows. All right, so let's take a look and start off with this subscription ID. Okay. So yeah, I'll back out of here real quick just so we can go in order. All right, so you have your subscription ID. You can just copy it. Okay. Paste it here. Okay, tenant ID. Let's go back to the app. Okay, so tenant ID. It's the second one here. Copy it. Client ID. First one here. SAS token we're going to have to do later. And client secret. That's going to be over here on the left-hand side under certificates and secrets. You can generate a new one, expire however long you'd like. I'm going to put Terraform. Okay, you can copy this value as well. Put it here and make sure to save this file. Okay, now what we want to do is actually go back to our subscription. And we want to go back to access control, and we want to make sure that the newly created application has a role of, I believe, at least contributor, but I've been using owner. So let's go ahead and add role assignment. Select a role, owner, and look for the application that you just created. In this case, mine's Terraform Lab, and save. All right, perfect. So at this point, we can declare a couple of variables in Visual Studio Code and get started. So let's go to setup, storage, main.tf. Okay. So prefix is going to be, prefix that you want to have for your lab environment. So I'm just going to put Chris Lab, keep it nice and simple. And location, East US, that's where I'm located, so I'll keep it. And storage suffix, right? So you have a prefix and a suffix. I'm going to use storage 505. And also I'm going to go in file and make sure I have autosave on. Of course, this is personal preference. You can manually save if you'd like each time, but I recommend autosave. And what I'm going to do now is, so we have the prefix and the suffix. So what we need to do is actually open up, we can just open up network for this, and we'll go to Azure RM_backend. Okay, and so we see here that it has the old variables, which has the prefix and the suffix. to use as the storage account name. So what I'll do is I'm just going to change this to Chris Lab Storage 505. Okay, perfect. We can close network and go back to storage now. We'll be starting here. All right, so at this point we should be good to go. So let's do terminal, new terminal. Let's give it a second to load up. Going to do it again. Terminal, new terminal. There we go. And we're going to do a Terraform init. Okay. Successfully initialized. Perfect. And at this point, we can do a Terraform plan to see if everything is set up. If something's not set up properly, we'll get an error here. Hopefully we don't. Excellent. So it says plan 3 to add, 0 to change, and 0 to destroy. So plan is just going to show you everything that it's going to be doing. So you can sift through this and kind of break it down and kind of figure out what's going on. We can see here it's going to create an Azure resource group in the East US location and call it chrislab-storage. But let's go ahead and run Terraform apply. Okay. So it'll actually start creating the content within Azure, and we can see that live. Okay, type in yes. All right, perfect. So it says the resources have been added. So let's actually go ahead and take a look and go home. Let's go to resource groups. And there we have it, Chris Lab-storage. Excellent. Perfect. Cool. So let's actually go back and look at the instructions. So we're already done with environment setup number 1. So let's go ahead and move on to number 2, which is the environment configuration. Okay. But before we do anything, we're actually going to have to copy this sas_url_query_string. Okay, and we can also see that the apply was complete with the 3 resources that were added, and the storage name is Chris Lab Storage 505. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and go back to our workspace file. And go ahead and finally finish this last value up here by pasting the value that we have. Okay, let's make sure it's copied properly. Yeah, so %3d at the end, and starts with question mark SV equals perfect. So save that. All right, so at this point we can actually kill this terminal, close this, and work on the main.tf from the environment. Okay, so I actually just modified this value a little bit earlier. By default, it's going to have lab-network or something like that. So what's going to happen is when we move over into the network section, we're going to create a new workspace to create our networking infrastructure. And what we want to do is we want to have this value here to be the value of the workspace that we will be creating when we do that. Okay, and you can see here it does say update for the Terraform workspace. Network setup was running. So let's go ahead and actually just do this real quick. Okay, Terraform init, perfect. So I'm just going to go, well, we'll do the plan just in case. Perfect. No changes. Infrastructure is up to date. We're still going to actually have to do an apply. And because what you see, if we see here, what it did is it says apply complete, output network underscore workspace equals Chris dash networking. So it actually declared this variable. And that's actually it for environment. So we can go ahead and close this and kill the terminal. Go into network, main.tf. Okay. We want to make sure our prefix here matches up with the prefix that we have. So in my case, I put Chris Lab. And again, we're getting that prefix from the same thing that we declared in storage. Okay. And at this point, we can do a terminal, new terminal, do a Terraform init. Okay. And we want to do the workspace that we just declared in the environment. So Terraform workspace list. So we only have default right now. So we have to create Chris dash networking. Okay, so we created and switched the workspace. And so essentially, as it says here, we're now on a new empty workspace. Workspaces isolate their state. So if you run Terraform plan, it will not see any existing state for this configuration. Okay. So at this point, we can actually go ahead and refer back to the documentation. We're going to have to use this command here, Terraform plan / apply -var equals quotes vnet address space. And essentially, you can just choose the virtual network that you'd like to use. Okay. So I'm going to do, you can just pick anything. I'm going to do 10.120. Okay, see if this works. Perfect. So we can actually just go back here and change the plan to apply. Okay, yes. And that's it, apply complete. 9 resources added of these various subnets and virtual net. Okay, if we actually go back in here, we can see if we go to resource groups, we do have our Chris Lab storage, which we created before, and of course our Chris Lab - network with our various networking components in here. Okay, go in here and see the subnets. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. So at this point, we're actually pretty much ready, and we're really good to go. So your configuration should be 100% complete. As we can see, if we go back to the GitHub, there's no other further steps. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's go ahead and kill this terminal. Close that out, and we can finally start working in our lab environment. So we'll start off, let's go ahead and just create a VM. So we'll go to main.tf, and there's nothing that you really need to even change. So we'll just go to terminal, new terminal, Terraform init. Okay, and then so best practice is to create a new workspace anytime you're spinning up essentially infrastructure in your environment. So we'll do Terraform workspace new VM test. Okay, and it automatically changed to it, so we're good. And let's do let's just jump right into an apply. Let's get risky here. All right, go ahead and type in yes, 11 to add. It's going to be, while we're waiting, we can look through this code and see what it's going to be doing. So we have a module web1, Okay, we have a module web 2, server type Apache. And server type Apache and web 2 as well. And then we have a DB, module DB1. Okay, so some type of database, MySQL database. Cool. All right, apply complete. 11 resources were added, and we have these 3 internal IPs for the web addresses as well as the database. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if we can actually connect using those external IP and see what's going on. Just go to all resources and take a look at web 1. Let's see. Okay, so we have you can use the public IP or the DNS name. I'll just use this. And there you have it. We have our Apache Ubuntu default web page, all spun up by the magical Terraform. And go ahead and take a look at the web 2. Make sure that's up and running. Let's give it a second. This one might take a little bit longer to spin up. No worries though. It will eventually come up. Meanwhile, we can take a look and see, talk a little bit about some of these other things. So we have gateway in here and SFTP server. So we can see here we can spin up a checkpoint gateway, R8030, gateway 1, gateway 2, 2 separate gateways. Okay. And so, I mean, there's really a ton of things you can do with Terraform. It's not limited to, of course, just checkpoint, but really you can use it to spin up really anything. So Docker containers, you know, really anything you can think of. The sky is the limit with Terraform. So let's go ahead and actually check back on this. It should be up now. Let's give it a sec. And there we go. It's up. This is a damn vulnerable web application. You can use this to practice like pen testing and basically try to exploit various vulnerabilities. And this is actually hosted within a Docker container. So there you have it, guys. That's Terraform. I'm not going to spin up this other stuff for the purposes of this video, but please feel free to play around with it. Just go into the main.tfs, do the terminal, new terminal, create a new workspace, and do the apply. And oh, I almost forgot actually. I'm going to show you guys the Terraform Destroy. It's actually one of the coolest parts about Terraform. So not only can we create things really fast, but we can also destroy them very fast. So we'll do Terraform space destroy. And it says, there you go, 11 to destroy. We had 11 successfully created before, so we know that's the correct number. Type in yes, and it'll go ahead and get started on that for you. Alright guys, and there you have it. Destroy complete. The 11 resources have been destroyed. If you guys had the same experience as me, this actually, ironically, would have taken much longer than the actual creation. And that's it. Have fun. Hope you guys enjoyed this. And I hope everybody has a great day and stay safe. And I'll see you guys soon. All right. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.